Welcome back. In the last video, we looked at Hugging Face spaces. And now, of course, if you'd like to learn more before we dive in and just start coding, you can 100% go through the documentation, but we're going to practice learning about Hugging Face spaces through coding. So let's go 8.2, deployed Gradio app structure. Now, what a Hugging Face space is, let's just jump into here. Support 2S, awesome SDKs. What's an overview? Makes it easy for you to deploy ML-powered demos, creating a new space. There we go. We can create a new space by going up here, new space. You will need a Hugging Face account for this, by the way. But what a Hugging Face space is yeah, here we go. Under the hood, Spaces stores your code inside a Git repository, just like the model and dataset repository. So Hugging Face also allows you to store your models and datasets, but I'll leave that as an extension. So thanks to this, the same tools we use for all the other repositories on the hub, Git and Git LFS. Git is a file tracking tool, remember? And Git LFS is for Git large file storage. So for large files, say files over 10 megabytes, you might have to use Git LFS. Or you will have to use Git LFS, sorry. There we go. Git LFS replaces large files such as audio samples, videos, and datasets and graphics with text pointers inside Git. So why might we need to use Git large file storage? What kind of large files are we dealing with? Well, we've got a model file, right? Our model file is 29 megabytes for EfficientNet B2, but our other files, such as an app file, a Python script, can be quite small. So Git LFS is for storing larger files. So we've learned that Spaces is a Git repository. And if you want to learn more about Hugging Face repositories, you can, of course, go to the documentation here. If you've ever used GitHub, it's very similar. So like for the course, I've got all of the code stored here on this Git repository, and you can see where I've updated it 857 times so far. These are all the different changes I've made to the files. So what Hugging Face Spaces allows us to do is have a very similar setup to what we've got on GitHub, but particularly with a focus on machine learning. So we've got space for models, data sets, and of course, demos. So that's why I said Hugging Face is like the GitHub of machine learning. So let's keep pushing forward. To get our files onto Hugging Face, we want to break them down into a file structure where they all live in a directory, right? But what might this directory look like? Well, let's have a look. I've got one prepared over here earlier because, after all, this is a machine learning cooking show. So we want to upload our demo Gradio app, and to do so, we'll put everything into a single directory. For example, demos/foodvisionmini. With the file structure, I'm just going to copy this into Google Colab so that we can break it down. Let's start to put all of our app files into a single directory. Because the idea here is we want to go from Colab to folder with all Gradio app files, and then upload app files to Hugging Face Spaces. And then once they're on Hugging Face Spaces, we can deploy it from there. So just like in the Going Modular section of the PyTorch course, where we put our most useful code into Python scripts, for the Gradio demo deployment, we want to put our most useful functionality into a demo folder and then deploy that to a Hugging Face repository. And in turn, because a Hugging Face repository is what Spaces uses to deploy demos. So a few moving pieces, but of course, nothing we can't handle. So let's just get out of a few things there. This is what we're working towards. So we have, by the end, our file structure will look like this. So this is what I've just copied from the Learn PyTorch book. Just copy this. So we're going to have a top level directory called demos. We can store our FoodVision Mini demo in that demos directory. And then within that Food Vision mini folder is everything pertaining to that demo. So we might have our train model path, app.py, which is going to be the default app that Hugging Face tries to deploy. This is a Python app, and this is the beauty of Gradio as well, right? Gradio is all written in Python. So we can move this code into a file called app.py, and that is what Hugging Face Spaces is going to deploy. So this is what we're going to get, something like this. And then if we keep going, what do we have? We have an examples directory that's going to house our example files so that they can be served like this. And then we have model.py that will define what our model is so it can load in this trained model state dictionary here. And then finally, we'll finish off with a requirements.txt file. So if you want to see this in action, so you can see this in action as a deployed app. Now, we've interfaced with this a fair few times now, but I'm going to copy the link in there. And then you can also see the example file structure. So what we just went through in here. So if we go to files and versions, this is what I was talking about before. So see how this is quite similar to the files I've got on GitHub currently? This is the same thing on Hugging Face Spaces. So we've got our examples directory, we've got our model, which is stored with git lfs, so git large file storage. We've got a readme, we've got app.py, model.py, and requirements.txt. So if you want to look into here, we've got a few things going on. We've got Gradio right down here. This looks very similar to the app that we've just wrote in Google Colab. We've got a predict function. We've got a loading model. And then this function here, create FNet B2 model, comes from model.py. So this is what we're going to start working towards over the next couple of videos, so that once we have all of our files here in our Hugging Face space, it will deploy them for us and create this app. So this app here is actually just running this code from app.py behind the scenes. And so app.py is the default name that Hugging Face Spaces looks for to run an app. Now, of course, you can change this in the README, but I'm going to leave it as the default app.py app file. Now, we've covered a fair bit of ground there, but there's nothing that you can't find out from within the Spaces documentation. So we're going to keep moving towards working on replicating this working structure here. So with that being said, I'm just going to copy this link so you can see what the file structure looks like on Hugging Face Spaces. Beautiful. So if you want to go ahead and try to recreate this file structure, please do so. But that's what we're going to work towards creating over the next few videos. Then once we've got this, we can upload it to Hugging Face Spaces. So I'll see you in the next video.